Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Tanya Osborne. I'm the founder of the Cannadiva, and I'd like to welcome everyone to what we're calling Read and Respond. If you didn't know, the regulations for home cultivation are out for review. And right now, the public comment period is also open for you to be able to comment on these regulations to let the OCM know what you like or what you don't like. And I am so happy to be joined by some of my dear friends in cannabis, my friend Kimber Rezi and my friend Tosi. And we have our lovely Danny in the back. I'm going to bring everybody up so you can say hi, and then we'll jump in. I want to let everybody say hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, ladies. How are you today? Welcome.
Amazing.
Thank you for participating in my crazy. I appreciate you. So here's what we're doing today. We're going to go over the regulations. We're not going to do a line by line. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to I want to thank you. Our sponsors or our partners in this event are the Cannaware Society, New York Cannabis United, and obviously the Cannadiva. What we want to do is go over the regulations. I'm not going to tell you what you like or don't like. You're going to, you know what you like or don't like, but we're going to just have a conversation about it because some things that I really want to see happen may resonate with you. Some things that Kimber, is passionate about, and Tosi also might resonate with you. So it's a matter of just like, oh, I never thought of that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're going to do. And at the end, we're going to tell you where to go and how to craft your email and send it off to the OCM. You got to do that on your own. So there's a little work involved for you, but not a lot. So let me just say, Danny's going to be in the back of the virtual studio, handling your comments. So if you have questions for any of us, let us know so that we can pop them on screen and have a conversation about it. You might have a perspective that we didn't think about either. So, all right, cool. So let's jump right in. Danny, I'll see you in a bit. Bye. Right. And we'll see you shortly, Danny girl. All right. So I want everyone to know where we're working from. Our partners in this event, the New York Cannabis United, did this awesome summary, which we are kind of going over today. So you can go to this link and access the summary that we're going to be referencing. And that's what we're going to use as our kind of benchmark. And then we're just going to chat about it. And then, at the very end, we're going to send you over here so that you can send your comments, but we'll give you all that information later. So I guess let's jump in. I'm going to add this to the stream. This is kind of where we started. Like I said, folks, we're not doing line by line, but we're just going to give you an overview. So if you can go access that, how do you call it? Oh, she took it off. We're doing the same thing. That would be great. So Kimber, Tosi, first of all, please introduce yourselves. And then, in fact, let's do that first. I'm all over the place, ladies. I'm sorry. Kimber, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kimber Rezi. I am a patient advocate for the New York State Medical Cannabis Program and for the entire cannabis program. I believe that everyone who is a resident is entitled to be a patient and have access to plant-based medicine. I am a patient. I utilize the plant to replace over 20 pharmaceuticals from my daily diet. So I'm always really proud to share that story and to see how I might be able to help other people do the same thing. I am also the parent of a minor patient. So having this conversation today about home grow is very, very important to me as someone who works in the space, as someone who provides care. And I'm really excited to see what we might learn from our community members today.
Thank you, Kimber. And Tosi, please say hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tosi Ajayi. I'm so excited to be here with the Cannadiva family. I am a proud cannabis advocate and entrepreneur. So I am the founder of NYU Canna Policy, which is a student group out of NYU Wagner School of Public Service. And I also am the co-owner of Holistic Remedies LLC, as you can see behind me right here. It is a CBD brand, and we make skincare, and we really pride ourselves on using simple ingredients to heal our communities through wellness and cannabis. And I do nonprofit work in the space as well. I am an advisor to an awesome nonprofit, New York Small Pharma, and I do community outreach for them, as well as serve as their director of social equity. So thank you so much for having me today, and I can't wait to jump in and talk about these regs.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. So let's jump right in. So let's start at the beginning. Page 1, right? What are the definitions of all of the things? Cultivation, do you want to start there, or do you assuming that people know that much already?
I think we could probably start there. You know, this section really outlines the definitions and key terms in this set of regs. So like in order to understand the rest, you kind of have to drill down and know what these mean. So yeah, we could just read some of them.
Sure.
Cultivation means growing, cloning, harvesting, drying, curing, grading, and trimming of the cannabis plant. Notice it doesn't include any sort of processing. So that is something to keep mind of. And then designated caregiver is a really big one. It means that you are 21 years of age or older, and you are designated by a certified patient caregiver.
And right now, if you are a patient in the medical cannabis program, you can have up to 2 caregivers. A designated caregiver is someone who can go into any of the facilities, pick up your medication for you, and deliver it to your home. In turn, if you are a patient and you realize that there are fellow community members that you know who are logistically challenged or might not have the transportation needs or means to actually get to a dispensary, you as a patient can provide care for up to 4 additional patients. So that's a really nice thing that you can provide as a service. And now we'll get to talk about what that means for our home grow regs today.
Yeah, I think to point out a big one, number 6 is on the grounds. Because I think we know what the Office of Cannabis Management is, and the different sets of plants. Mm-hmm. But on the grounds is essentially the external areas of a private residence where the individual resides and has legal rights to use that for their own purposes. That is what on the grounds means. And essentially, I think another one to point out is number 8, which is private residence. That means any building or part of a building or structure included but not limited to a private home, townhouse, condo, co-op, apartment, or mobile home. That is what your private residence is. So I don't know if this is obvious to people, but I think it's helpful to read it out loud. There is a definition that's listed in the regulations that it's processing. It's not in this summary that's showing on New York Cannabis United, but it will show as we go down.
Yes.
But since we are talking about definitions, I think we should just say it now. So processing means extracting, preparing, treating, modifying, mm-hmm. compounding, manufacturing, or otherwise manipulating cannabis for use to concentrate or extract its cannabinoids. And then for purposes of this section, processing does not include growing, cultivation, cloning, harvesting, drying, etc. So
2 very separate areas that really affect patients who are looking for home grow. This really gives us the opportunity to talk about the fact that, yes, we're growing this plant, but we want the ability to actually convert this plant into a myriad of different medications for ourselves and for the people we're giving care to. You're muted, Tanya.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next.
Yeah.
Who can cultivate, right? Who can cultivate medical cannabis for personal use? Right now, according to the regulations, you need to be a patient. I had a chat with somebody at the OCM. That's just the first round. Then eventually it will roll out. But right now, based on the regulations, it's for patients only.
Yes.
That are 21 years or older, and unless they're a minor and then have a caregiver involved. So, and it says here, for the purpose of the section, the regulations designated caregivers, which we spoke about before. So like in Kimber's situation, she has a minor child that's part of the program. They are still also able to cultivate, but she would be the caregiver for said cultivation. So, there's a bigger, deeper dive in that too. I'm curious of your feedback. Anybody, we're good to go? Can we move on?
I just think it's a really important thing to point out that if home grow is important to you, and if having your voice heard for what the program shapes out to be, having a card right now is the first way that you get access. One of the reasons that very often our legislators think that legalization and regulation isn't important to us is because we do have an apathetic medical program. So that is a really good reason right now, in addition to some of the benefits that you will see once adult use comes to fruition. Being one of the first people to put a plant in the ground is pretty exciting.
And Kimber and I are definitely, and I know Tosi as well, I'm a big fan of our program. I know it gets a lot of, get shit on a little bit, but
you know what? Everything gets shit on a little bit when people aren't aware. And very often the people who are, kind of have never been in a dispensary. So reach out. I'd love to take you to a dispensary. I'd love for you to see the people that you're going to meet who give you this wonderful care in our state. They are the foundation for what the next steps will be.
Exactly.
So come shopping with me.
I want to shop with you, Kimber. I want to shop with you all day. So, okay, the next one is, where can patients and designated caregivers obtain seeds? This, when we were doing our chat, this was a big conversation. You want to jump in?
I think the interesting thing here is that this is our third round of home grow regulations, and the seed conversation is definitely something that has evolved in the different rounds. So sometimes we wonder, does anybody read these comments? Do they affect things? In the original language, you were only going to be able to get a seed at a registered organization. I'm with you, Nikki. I'll take you shopping any day. Soon for seeds, hopefully at our favorite RO. So there is an expectation that patients will at some point be able, based on this, to buy seeds or clones from one of the dispensaries and be able to identify those genetics and learn how to grow their own medicine. But there's also a lot of open verbiage here that makes you feel that if you're within compliance of the agricultural laws and you're buying seeds, that you're supposed to look at your state laws for what's legal for shipping. And I think it's a very gray space based on this.
Yeah, I think
go ahead. I'm sorry, Tosi.
Yeah, I mean, just to make it super, super clear, if people don't see it on the screen, there are no restrictions as to where you have to get your seeds as a patient. So that means if you have been somebody who's been hoarding seeds that you found in your baggies over the years, like, you can actually use those to grow cannabis at home. So it's left gray. I don't know if it's intentional, but I guess when we get through our actual comments.
In reality, I'm imagining, how could you say, if I'm having my seeds mailed to me from up the street,
or you pick them up at one of the trade shows,
exactly,
where now federal laws, seem to be very iffy on what constitutes the potency of a seed, because before that seed is germinated, does it actually contain THC?
Exactly.
So depending who you are, the risk is at a very different level there. But that is a really nice evolution that we did not have in the very first conversation of these.
We are going to need seeds, and that also plays into one of the other licenses, which we will talk about another day, is the nursery license. I hope that some people in our community, especially, that I would love to buy my clones from someone in our community, right?
Absolutely. That was the best thing of the CWCB Expo, being able to meet women in our community who've cultivated their own genetics and know that when there's the opportunity for home grow, that there's somebody out there who's actually thinking about this as a genetic for people with PTSD or high inflammation. It's exciting.
I love it. I love it. So we talked about seeds. It's a gray area. The next one is how much cannabis can be cultivated. I know this is a big issue in community. Certified patients can grow no more than 3 immature, non-flowering female plants and 3 mature at a time. What are your thoughts on that? I personally, again, we're not here to tell you what to do or how to think. We're just having the conversation. I don't know what I would do with 6 plants. 6 plants makes me happy. A total of 24. I'm sorry, a total. From my mouth to God's ears. A total of maximum of 12 per household.
So
what are your thoughts?
I've thought that would make me really happy. I've never been a person who's really wanted to grow cannabis until I heard Nicole Ricci speak about why it's my right. And as soon as somebody actually identified this as my right, it became something I was obsessed with. But I have 4 patients that I give care to in addition to myself. And we all have very different medical issues. So if I only have 12 plants, 6 mature and 6 immature across 5 of us, how does that really allow me to mitigate my individual needs? Because I don't want to be a caregiver who carries. I want to be a caregiver who converts, who actually gives you confidence about this cannabis and your medicine. So when I look at states like Michigan, where they're saying, hey, you can have 5 patients there and you can have up to 12 plants per patient.
Listen,
now, do I need
that's
that?
Amazing. That was my first experience.
But I believe, right, there has to be a middle ground.
Right.
So I just wonder
caregiver, just to say what Kimber's talking about, is the caregiver number is no real more than the patient number. In a household, if me and my husband, we're both over 21, we can have a maximum of 12 plants in our household. I'm also a caregiver. If I have 4 patients, my number is still 12. So there's no wiggle room for my home personal grow and my patient grow. We have to figure that part out. There's no real indication right now. It's only for the number doesn't change. 12 is the number. You know what I mean?
I also wonder in that number, they talk about what we can actually grow and quantify per patient. And there's something that says that I can create 3 ounces or 24 grams of concentrate for each one of my patients, but it doesn't actually quantify a window. Is that every 30 days? Is it every 60 days? And then I kind of wonder, who's really regulating that window? And
who's processing? We're not right now. There's no processing in this.
It does say that we can process. We just can't use butane, and I'm very excited about that as a caregiver because I want to be able to take a plant that I grow and know that I'm converting that for tinctures, and I want to know that there's a medication that I'm growing that maybe I'm pressing it, maybe I'm pulling out my nug smasher because I watch everybody on Reddit and say, why not me? Because when you have the passion for home grow, you usually have the passion for all of these other specialty avenues as well. You know, it's not for everybody. We see people who throw seeds in the ground and all of a sudden they have a pound coming off the plant. And then, you see people who are trimming and.
Yeah. I think really 12, I think 12 plants, sounds great for, one household. If it's just 2 people, okay, that's 6 plants each. But with these regulations, it says designated caregivers can grow for up to 4 certified patients. So if they weren't growing for 4 patients, that means it would be 3 plants per patient. And that's not including if they wanted to grow for themselves. It's actually even less than 3 plants per person. So I think, I question, should the, amount of plants that a designated caregiver can grow be, should it be correlated with the amount of patients that you actually are growing for.
I think it should.
I do as well.
Yeah, because and also, I mean, for anybody, I'm no huge grower. I'm not a grower, period. But I know that if, let's say, you were hoarding seeds, and you don't know whether those seeds are female or male, in the sense of speaking about immature versus mature plants. So you kind of have to wait till they grow. So like, what do? You just like chop down like 3 if you had 6 female plants, female seeds. It's kind of hard to tell before you actually grow it. So in theory it makes sense, but I think actually applying it could be hard, for like the regular Joe Schmo who doesn't really know. They have a few seeds and they just excited about this program, Access to Grow. It could be a slippery slope.
I mean, you're going to have people that are going to geek out on cultivation. And I say, I want to be your friend. And then you're going to have friends that are going to be like me that can't keep crap in the ground and they're going to die. And I'm still going to go to the dispensary. It's not going to be
You know what? And you're going to have people like me who are going to put a couple of clones in the ground and start from a seed and see that I'm just as successful as I am with my tomatoes and my cucumbers and my squash. And I'm still going to go to the dispensary 3 times a week, just like I still go to ShopRite and Stop and Shop and BJ's and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods.
Exactly.
Right.
So one thing has nothing to do with another. You did raise a great point, Tosi. I have these 3 plants that I'm now going to put all my eggs in that basket. What if I get one that's a male plant? So yes, I know that it doesn't mean it has to be scrapped, and I can heat those leaves and then eat them, or I can use those roots to make a tea for people with inflammation. But what if that's not in your area of patient needs?
Yeah.
Then what do you do? Like, am I bartering and selling my roots to you, or just giving them away? Because
the regulations, they say no selling.
Right, no selling. I
Water doesn't matter.
And they do specify female plants too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned male plants.
What you can sell?
No. They specified in the number. It said not like the number for the 6 is female plants. Like that wording is in there. It says certified patients can grow no more than 3 immature non-flowering female plants.
Oh, yes.
And 3 mature flowering female plants at a time.
So can I have unlimited males to make my roots? Look at you.
Oh, wow. That's a really, yeah.
I'm just saying that's what it says.
That's the most amazing thing about these conversations. Just looking at the fact that the 3 of us have actually talked about this a half a dozen times over the past 4 weeks. And that's literally the first time that's come up, because there's so much to unpack here. It's really, really overwhelming when someone's like, hey, go to a link.
9 pages, you would think. Imagine the other regs. This is like a 9-pager. So let's move on before we get stuck.
And just to quickly just put a pin in that comment, you can't have more than 12 plants in the household. So like technically you wouldn't be able to grow unlimited because you still can't have more than 12 cannabis plants. That's what it says. 12 cannabis plants total, no more than that.
Okay. So we're moving on. We're at designated caregivers. We covered that. Oh, did we cover that part?
I had something that I noticed that's in here. So I have 2 caregivers, but according to this regulation, only one of my caregivers can grow for me. So obviously I understand that because we want to keep everything in one location, but what if I pick the wrong one?
You pick me. She can't grow crap. Go
to the dispensary and do a drive-by.
Well, that is something.
Real quickly, I just want to say to everyone who is watching, I hope you have a notebook that you're taking notes, because you're not gonna, if you party the way we party, you're not gonna remember this stuff later. You can watch it on the replay, but take notes, and then because we want you to craft your letter, so you could bring up these points in your stuff. Okay. So go ahead.
One thing to just keep in mind is that we're going to send in these comments, and that's going to open up the period for another 45 days of review. So we do want to be really thoughtful about what we're asking for, because we did make an impact on where seeds come from.
Absolutely. Good point.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good point. Okay, so we covered where we're at now is on the grounds. We know what on the grounds means, private residence. The next one starts with what measures must be taken when storing cannabis plants for cultivation. I'm just going to read the first line. Designated caregivers must keep any cannabis being cultivated for certified patients separate from any other cannabis being cultivated. So we're still under caregiver here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm growing mine, well, now I can't grow mine because I've maxed out my 12 for my patients. So that's a big one for me.
Mhm.
That's a big one for me. Caregivers should be able to grow more, because how am I going to cultivate for myself
And keep
if I
it
am
separate.
cultivating for patients? Yeah. And keep it separate. What do you think I live in a compound? You know?
I know, because 12 plants already could take up quite a bit of space.
Exactly. And that's something that should be really considered. I live in a co-op, so I don't think I could put 12 plants in my apartment, but I live
in a private house, and I live in a suburb, and I don't have space for 12 plants. I don't know that I have space for 6 plants. So I understand that logistically, not everyone has a garage or that desire to be that type of caregiver to, good of the heart to grow. But there are people that
Yes.
really do want to be able to do that as their give back to community and to residents. So if they can make those means to keep this safe and secure, like the woman we met from Michigan who utilized a locked garage.
Yeah.
I mean, God love you that you have a garage that big.
With 60 beautiful girls in it. And I was like, oh my goodness. So yes. Okay. So caregiver, blah, 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 storage. Where do we get to? Oh, this was a great one. You could see it here. Can my landlord, do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can my landlord stop me from growing my medicine or growing medicine for others? The answer here, in most cases, landlords may not refuse to lease or otherwise penalize a certified patient or designated caregiver. The options to that are if failing to do so would cause the landlord to lose monetary or licensing related benefit, or if a property has a smoke-free policy in place. What are your thoughts there?
My thoughts are that patients need access to their medicine. So if landlords are not going to permit, people to grow within their residence, then how are we making that accessible to those people? That's where my mind automatically goes. I do like that the law, specifies that they may not refuse to lease or otherwise penalize a designated caregiver, but there does seem to be, a loophole of some sort where there can be mechanisms to actually prevent
like in New York City right now, 90% of the buildings being built are smoke-free buildings. And we're not talking smoking, we're talking cultivation. But these buildings are smoke-free buildings, which is in the legislation, in the regulations that could potentially be a challenge.
So does that mean that we're implying if you're growing that you are combusting? Because I grew up in an apartment building, so I had one of the first Arrow gardens because I wanted to be able to grow lettuce in my apartment. So theoretically, I was able to grow, 6 little heads of lettuce. So again, if I'm out of the reach and access of a minor, if I'm in a safe and secure environment and I'm in my home, no one should really know what I'm doing in my home. If I live in a smoke-free co-op and I've signed an agreement that this is a smoke-free facility, such as when we go to a hotel, it means that we cannot combust in that hotel. So I know that, yes, Sarah, every building, is smoke-free. But just because you're growing doesn't mean that you're going to be combusting.
Right.
So if you have the right ventilation in your indoor tent, I'm not exactly sure why those two things are mutually exclusive in this.
I live in a co-op, like I said, and I do not live in a smoke-free building. So, but I also don't live in New York City. My building is not smoke-free. So, and P.S., we've been watching videos, Kimber and I, to grow cannabis in an aero garden. Just so you know, it can be done. You know, so
I really love that
that's an interesting question, Kimber.
point.
We're not smoking, or potentially not smoking. You're growing. The building being a smoke-free building.
Why does it?
I should still be allowed to make a tincture.
I'm not combusting.
I understand.
If it's the smell, I don't know, but we can tent, like you said.
You would tent and you would have a good ventilation system. I think that was the most impressive thing that I learned at the CWCB Expo. What a tent really affords you if you're looking for home grow and you're looking for discretion. You're able to take a 2x2 space or a 3x3 space of a closet or a corner room and dedicate with lights and ventilation and these carbon filters and a lot of things that were explained to me over 3 days that were a little over my head. But the truth of the matter is, if you're doing all of those things right, the entire apartment building shouldn't be smelling from your growth, theoretically. Now, I just don't know why, if you live in an apartment building, you shouldn't be
trying to grow 12 plants in a 2-bedroom apartment. That might be a little different, so it really depends. It really depends,
Otherwise, the way that reads is, if you live in an apartment, you have to find somebody who has a private residence to caregive for you, to grow medicine for you. Exactly. That's not right.
That's not right.
No, it's not. And this actually just makes me, I'm always really passionate about removing the stigma from cannabis. Like, cannabis is just a plant. Would there be, regulations around growing like peppermint? Peppermint is very potent in smell. You know what I mean? Like, this is not about smoking. This is actually about just growing a plant. So, like, why does this even need to be explicitly mentioned? That stigma, it's hard, but I digress.
Yes, it is. It is. Where are we now? Can I charge? Can designated caregivers who are not the designated caregiver of a patient provide personal cultivated cannabis to that patient?
Can a caregiver, so I give care to 4 patients and I grow cannabis and I see you on Saturday, can I give you product from my home grow? Is that what that is? Is that what that means?
Yes, it does. And I think it says yes here because you're thinking of, we can gift, not to use that term, but if there's no transaction, you can give weed to your friends.
So I'm a patient. My niece and I are both patients and caregivers for each other, and very often we will share medication and trade it back and forth, because as long as that medication is properly labeled, we are both, through regulation, able to carry each other's medication. So I guess that's kind of the same thing. That's a really nice
and this is where that 3 ounces, 24 grams comes in. It says, yes, even if not growing cannabis for a particular patient, you may provide those patients each with up to 3 ounces of cannabis and up to 24 grams of concentrated cannabis. Having additional patients who you do not specifically grow for does not allow you to grow more than 12.
It just means if out of those 12 plants, you're able to facilitate more patient needs, you may be kind and courteous.
Yeah.
That's very lovely.
Yes. No, it's wonderful. It's awesome. Because if someone is a really great grower,
absolutely,
and they have a great yield,
if you're a really great grower, that means that you have a lot of passion. and you know that you get out what you put in. So that
Absolutely.
means if you are a great grower, you are investing in the highest quality of fertilizers, of irrigation. And I do believe that you should be reimbursed for those expenses for my cannabis, but I do understand why we don't want people to be able to monetize in a huge way to take advantage of patients, but I don't really know of any other entity where we think it's okay to ask people to provide an expertise and not get paid
And not
for
pay them.
it.
Absolutely.
It's that Facebook meme of, the woman asks, Picasso to draw something and he charges her, or whoever the artist is, and it's $85, but it took you 3 minutes. If you had the ability to turn a blank piece of paper into something magical in 3 minutes, you could charge $85 too.
Right. So, and I agree with you, because I think I know it's not a license to be a caregiver, but caregivers, a lot of caregivers, myself included, do a little bit more than just, be a courier back and forth for medicine. So the question we're talking about right now is, can I charge? No. You cannot profit from the personal cultivation of medical cannabis. You cannot sell, barter, or trade the cannabis that you grow for yourself or a patient. Only ROs licensed to grow medical cannabis or AU cannabis can profit from the sale of seeds, plants, services, blah, blah, blah. That would be my biggest pushback, because I think you're cutting entrepreneurship at the knees. I come from coaching. I worked as a trained coach for about 8 years, and I know of cannabis coaches like Amy Chin, and there's a cannabis coaching institute. I think a lot of caregivers provide that extra information that you should not cut entrepreneurship at the knees. I would push back big on compensation. Now, you should charge a fair and reasonable. You don't want to be out here charging people crazy. So maybe that is some sort of, I don't want that to be regulated, but I think the fact that you say no, just like, nope, sorry, nope, I don't think is good.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that too. I was a bit torn because I understood the goal was to eliminate people overcharging patients and truly making this accessible program to grow at home. However, it doesn't sit right that caregivers can't receive compensation, but ROs can for their seeds. Like, couldn't there be perhaps a price ceiling introduced that says you can't charge patients over such and such amount, so that that's a way to meet us in the middle. And then there also
your caregiver is optional. You can change your caregiver. So if you feel you're not being taken care of, or someone's gouging you, you could get a new caregiver. So that's always an option too.
There are many people, especially out in the western part of the state, where we do not have a lot of dispensaries, where 5 patients will partner together, and that one caregiver will go and make that 2-hour drive, and they will split gas and tolls, in addition to providing the caregiver, obviously, with the out-of-pocket expense for the medication. So I know that there is a way to get your costs covered, but I do think there should be, maybe this shouldn't hold up home grow itself, but there definitely should be another conversation about what it is to be a caregiver in the state of New York, and what it is to be a caregiver who couriers. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's been the backbone of the program. And a caregiver who converts and provides care and consideration and compassion. There's a lot that goes into that. So that's definitely a conversation I'd love to see people reach out to the OCM to say, maybe we should look at evolving what it means to be a caregiver, especially as we're adding home grow, because now it's a lot more than just driving to a location.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Really,
And
really
thank you to all the caregivers out there. You really make a
Yes.
difference for patients who don't have the mobility, the access, or the ability to feel comfortable about going out to obtain their medications. It's not always people who have physical ailments. Sometimes it's our friends with mental health anguish who really can't get out of that house. So when you step up to be a caregiver, you really make the difference for somebody else in the state. So thank you for that.
And just to, yes, of course, piggybacking off of that, thank you to all caregivers for sure. And I just want to say, you know, compared to other healthcare sectors, benchmarking, once again, you know, taking the stigma away from cannabis, there are compensated caregivers in New York for elder care. So
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
why can't there be compensation within cannabis?
For special needs care.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll share Angel's comment. Angel wants to know if we can share info on becoming a caregiver. Maybe on IG. Absolutely, we will definitely go over that. It's you just need to be tethered to a patient. So if you get somebody into the program, you could become their caregiver. So you can't just be a caregiver without being attached to a patient.
So a
So
patient will.
I'm not a patient, but I help a lot of people become patients. So a lot of them, I am their caregiver for some of the folks that I've helped get into the program, because sometimes they can't, like Kimber said, they can't go, they feel uncomfortable, what have you. So if you want to get more people in the program, which I would love you for, then you could be their caregiver. All right, are you good, Tosi? Do you want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, so the next one was how much personal cultivation cannabis can be stored in the home at one time. This was our big one. We almost fought on this one. So I'll read what it says. A certified patient or designated caregiver may lawfully possess up to 5 pounds of personal home cultivated cannabis in their private residence or on the grounds. And note this is different from what you're allowed to carry. Yes. So 5 pounds. We've got 6 to 12 plants. We've got three of or to 6 of each are yielding, right? 5 pounds is not hard from 6 plants. Am I off? Because that's my
No.
right.
That's my understanding.
So if I've got 5 pounds, but I'm continuing to grow, I'm going to go over a little bit potentially.
And what's 5 pounds? Is it the cannabis that I have now harvested and is sitting in a bag to be burped? Is it my actual plant on the ground?
Are you gonna actually if I'm doing grow bags, is it my whole grow bag or is it the flower? I need to know so if something happens that you can protect yourself. There's really no there's 5 pounds is just the number.
I might have to start gifting away to my patients very quickly those 3 ounces.
Yeah,
and I guess that's maybe what they want you to do. Anything over 5 pounds, start giving it away. I hope caregivers give stuff away. But 5 pounds, we need clarification because I need to know, are you going to pick up my entire plant,
right?
Soil, roots and all? And is that my 5 pounds? Or is my 5 pound my cut, trim, dry, what cured product? That's what I need to know.
And then, you do have a plant can easily yield a pound.
That's what this guy just said. Or Sleepy Panda. I don't know.
That's right, Sleepy Panda. And my buddy says when you only yield a pound, he's like, meh, to the green thumb. So you also are going to have plants that are going to give you a tremendous yield, and you have plants out of the same seeds that are just going to kind of be meek and maybe not. So how do you really define what that number is? Because my 5 might really vary depending on the day that you're there or how you quantify and view.
Yeah, so we don't know. And that's a big one for me because if you put one plant on a scale, it's 5 pounds or more.
Right.
So it would, if it's in a pot, and I heard that was happening in other states. So I want to make sure, like, are we talking about like yielded product, like dried, cured, whatever the case product? are we talking about the whole plant, stems, roots, fan leaves, and all? So I need clarification there.
And what are we responsible for tracking and recording as home growers? If I'm getting a seed from an RO, the New York State program is based on seed to sale. We're supposed to be able to tell you where this seed has gone and lived throughout the entire. Wow, I would like you to teach me, Sleepy Panda, because I would like to see 2.5 pounds every day. I will be your sleepy unicorn. Please advise. So, but that's exciting. That is something, again, 6 months ago, I never thought about home grow, but you see that there are other patients with this area of expertise, and you know that we're all going to start helping each other. And the last thing we want is to see people predicated in fear about what next steps are and who actually has, how is this all accounted for and tracked, and not that we necessarily want it to be, but just out of curiosity, we're spending all this time on these numbers.
We are going to, I would suggest that you kept records. I think it would be, you don't keep records of your tomato plants. I know that.
Listen, but I'm a caregiver.
Some people do.
I was just going to say
chart on the yard. So
I have a record for every medication that my minor patient has received since the day he received his first of 3 cards, because I always let them expire. So he got a new card every time. But I know every medication. And when his doctor calls and says, hey, I need to know, I have an answer, I have a spreadsheet, and we're able to do deductive reasoning. So the fact of the matter is that is a responsibility that I do have to this medical professional who has put his medical license at the availability of giving my son access to care. So I think that's the least thing that we can do. If there is a desire for us to track this, I think there would have to just be a good way to do it.
And I think not good, but a lot of cultivators in general track their fertilizers, their lights, the time, the temperature, the pH level. So they're going to track stuff. You know what I mean? So
how you get better, right?
Exactly. So there's a conversation going on in the chat, but it's kind of vibrant. It's really about this 5-pound thing. Is it the dirt? Is it just the plant? Because Sleepy Panda and I agree that at one point they throw the pot and everybody out, the dirt, the whole deal. So we definitely want clarification on that, and I think that's a good point. Let's move on. Okay, our certified patients. Right? Did I cover what we did? Yes. Our certified patients and designated caregivers are allowed to process personal cultivation cannabis and make concentrates. The answer is yes. I am very excited about that.
Yes.
Yes, with limitations. Processing means, and Tosi read this earlier, extracting, preparing, treating, modifying, combining, manufacturing, or otherwise. It is prohibited to process cannabis at home by means of any liquid or gas other than alcohol. So can you make tinctures? Absolutely. Can you make your butters and oils? Absolutely. Can you make BHO or CO2 extracts? No, probably not. I would be terrified anyway, but that's me, So that, I think that's good. What Kimber and I were talking about, and Tosi also, about the possibility of having places that you could take your home grow to be processed into RSO, why can't I think right now? Distillate.
Into distillate, into different concentrates. Not everybody wants to own every gadget under the sun. And by the way, not all of us get the yield that experts get. It would be really nice to be able to take this 5 pounds of perhaps this high CBD THC plant that I would be growing and know that I could give it to someone and say, take an ounce and create X, Y, and Z, this, and that. And they would give me back a record of this is what it converted into.
Even thinking about the processing, I mean, it makes me think about the 5-pound weight limit. And like, is that one
That's
of
how you get rid of a pound of weed, or press it.
Processing in it.
And then, but the other thing is, so now you've pressed it and you have all those pucks. So you've gotten your rosin, but people like me who did not realize that all the THC is still in there. So it's not a decarbed flower. All of the potency is in there. I'm still going through my pucks for different butters and oils. Absolutely. But the nice thing is it does show you that you can get, the most out of every nook and cranny out of every single plant when processing is an option.
Yes, and we will need, Nikki mentioned it. Nikki, we are on the same train here. We want home grow to be able to be tested.
Absolutely.
I want to be able to take, if I'm going to geek out about cultivation, I want to know what the THC, CBD, CBG, THCA, all that stuff. I want to know what's in it.
I'm willing to pay.
Do I got some pests? Is there mold? If we're in a regulated product, home grow should be not regulated, but I should be able to go and yes, terpenes, the whole deal.
That's what I want.
Get it checked.
I want to be able to go to a testing lab and be able to pick off of a menu a la carte that on this batch I'm looking for micro, on this one I'm looking for potency, on this one I'm just looking for terpenes, and maybe I want a full panel. But if you're converting cannabis for medication and you don't know what's in it, how do you actually measure what the byproduct is that you're providing for these patients?
You can't tell milligrams if you don't know what you started with. And you can't tell potency by looking at this pretty plant.
No.
Being that there is a desire for patients to know what is in their cannabis plants, that's even more of a reason why designated caregivers should be able to get compensated, because testing is not cheap. Mm-hmm. And, if that's something that the patients are demanding and you have to pay for that, you should be able to be reimbursed. I don't think that was listed in the things that they would reimburse for designated caregivers testing. So that is something also to keep in mind.
I mean, and I don't necessarily need them to pay for my testing.
No.
I am very okay with paying to get my stuff tested, because some people might not care.
Correct. And that's a price that, just like your fertilizer, would be billed back to me. Or you as a caregiver could say, I'm willing to make sure that the product is transported properly, but the payment is up to you. And just so you know, testing is not that expensive. The average person can tangentially afford testing. You're looking at about $75 for a potency test. If you're looking for a full panel, you're going to spend $1,000. We don't need full panel testing, but we all do want to know about mold. There's no, you're talking about a living organism. So especially until you get your act together and your grow together, it takes a little bit of time to get everything moving. As Nikki just pointed out, I think a $200 investment in my health is well worth it when I think about the amount of medication that I'm going to be growing and converting that will have some kind of mass savings for me, and then allow me to supplement the other products that I need that are more designer from a dispensary.
Yep.
I'm not going to be making my capsules in the house, or will I?
Yes.
All right, so let's move on. We're at the sale of medical cannabis.
Tanya, I'm sorry. For testing, I just wanted to point out that the testing regulations are open for public comment until August 15th. So if you think that home grow testing is important to you, when we talk about writing these letters, it's not just in this home grow area. When we're talking about testing regulations, you want to be writing a letter to the OCM to let them know that when we talk about testing, it's all cannabis, including home grow.
Yes.
And just to quickly piggyback on that too, also due on August 15th are your comments about cannabis packaging and labeling. So I'm sure that lab testing is going to be intertwined with what's going to be on the packaging and labeling. So there's 3 you need to pay attention to all within this month.
And we hope to at least do more of these. This was just really important to us because we really want to see this happen and happen the right way. But we'll do more. If you want more, let us know and we'll do more. How about that?
This is the most pressing because it's due in 4 days. Your comments.
Oh, which one? Ours? These?
July 25th is the last day.
No, for these. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to do this over the weekend and send that email. But the other ones are coming up soon thereafter, but still in all. All right. So sales. This is about your ability to sell. So no person or entity sell medical cannabis plants or seeds for home cultivation unless it has complied with the cannabis law, blah, blah, blah. So you can't sell it. We know that.
But we can gift it, apparently.
But we can gift
another patient.
24 grams, absolutely. So now this is a weird one. So medical cannabis for home prior to selling medical cannabis for home cultivation, ROs and licensees have set up SOPs. So basically, it seems like we're going to they want us to go to ROs and the MSOs for seeds and or potentially clones in the beginning until licensing comes and we could go buy clones from people that we support. Hopefully that will happen.
And again, that's a very big change in the original language and the original verbiage, which had us only buying seeds and clones from registered organizations.
Okay, cool. So now there is labeling when you buy seeds from ROs, future licensees. They're going to tell you strain, seeds or plants, potency, potency of the parent plant, right? Date of harvest, in unique ID numbers. So they basically going to have some tracking in place. That does I can easily get behind that. I want them to know where it came from. I want them to be able to give you as much information about said seeds as possible or the plant as possible. So I'm okay with that. Are you guys good with that?
I think it's great. It matches what we do with the Department of Agriculture in labeling seeds. So people want to know what they're buying. They want to know what that lineage is. That drives the whole need of making that purchase.
Absolutely. So that was that part.
I like this, but the only thing that I would raise attention to is just letter K, which is just any other information as determined by the office. It leaves it pretty open. And, sometimes, I was speaking with NYU Canna Policy and we were just thinking about, is it necessary to have all of this information printed out? Like, can there be a digital way to access this? Can there be information that's listed in when you register to become a patient that everyone should know? Like, let's eliminate some paper if we can. I just don't want it to be like a 5-foot list of things. And truthfully, the font's so small. I don't know how many people can actually read it. I do get where they're coming from, but
I hope they have codes. Like I know a lot of the packaging has QR codes attached to their product that you could go and get all of this, so you don't have 75 pages of paper. Right. Kimber can speak to that better than I can.
One of the things is that you're going to buy seeds from a registered organization and you get home and there were supposed to be 6 seeds in the package and there were only 4, and you call me at the store and I'm going to ask you, what lot number? Can you take a picture of this? Because not only am I going to make sure that I take care of you for your customer need, but there's information on that label that allows me to go backtrack through the facility to see what went wrong. So every time you do buy a product, you do get a product safety insert the first time you buy a product. Some ROs give away much less paper than others. Some actually put every product on one sheet. As a patient returning, if you've bought something, you can tell the associate the second time, like, I don't really need that. Or can you email it to me? A lot of patients do ask for that. But one thing I do always worry about is we have so many patients in the aging community. Many of them do not come in with mobile devices that allow them to receive a text message, let alone read a QR code. So I love the QR codes because it helps us, but I think it's just about having the information almost in every avenue so it's accessible and
Yeah.
for that 6-point font.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And that's why I was torn, but I also was like, again, it's a joke to me, but this little itty bitty font, can those elderly people even read that? Like,
No, but you know what? They bring it back to the store, and as an associate, I can. So they bring it back, and that gives us the opportunity to track through where this, every single product is coded. We can track it back through the cameras to see exactly where the misstep is to make a correction. So, sometimes, and then there are people who can read every little letter there. I hope that when they talk about being able to add things, that I definitely, kind of wonder what we would be adding outside of the issues that are listed there already.
Yeah.
Especially when you cross-reference it against what we do in agriculture. So it does worry me too. Like, why do we need a blanket statement like that? Unless you're adding more information to help a patient, but I can't really
And
fathom.
I'm wondering if that clause is there as like, in case we got to do some more stuff. So I have no, like I don't know, but
Right.
legalese is legalese for a reason, and
I know,
know,
but sometimes we don't ask those questions and we don't realize like what the big difference is between like may, will, can, and shall.
Exactly.
So I love that you brought that up because I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, that's great.
I've been trying to challenge myself to think about things in a way of, not just because they've been done that way, but like, what can we do different? Because think about like 2020, like nobody thought we can have school like at home. And I mean, the whole world has completely changed. And before, people would say that can never happen. So, just for imagination's sake, I brought it up.
Listen, Nikki, I couldn't read that. You say older humans. I could not read 6-point font if you paid me. So
I read it all day long, and
and I hope that they have different ways of delivering that information. That's really going to be the only way we're going to be able to figure that out. All right, where are we at now? We're still on. So these next parts are really talking about the ROs or the potential licensees and what they have to do in regard to selling medical cannabis for home cultivation. And that's really their labeling. The label shall be printed and affixed to packaging, which is terrible. Packaging is awful. Packaging and labeling shall not contain any untruthful or misleading statements. Transport, getting it from place to be, they will be able to do that. Storage at dispensing facilities, we know they all do that now. They have to make sure that it's in a secure place, that it's locked up, that it's monitored. Sales of medical cannabis for home cultivation, ROs or licensees shall only conduct sales for home cultivation at their dispensaries. Sell seeds and immature plants only in quantities determined by the office. And then there's little bits and pieces that go down further. Hold on, let me show everybody there. I wish I could make it bigger because that's about 0.6 when I look at it from here. That's why I'm using my iPad so I can do this. Can't see anything. Same thing we talked about. It has to specify the strain, potency, information about contraindications, all the things that you would get from medicine. You know what I mean?
Will this part of the regulation, do we think, will that affect people who go for nursery licenses? Like if somebody has a nursery license, would I be able to go buy clones or seeds there for my home grow as a medical patient? So theoretically,
maybe as a medical patient. Well, hopefully by the time we have licensees that are doing nursery, it would have expanded. because nursery is the point
Right.
of selling immature plants anyway. So I'm hoping in the beginning, wherever we are able to buy, or if the system goes fast enough where that'll get pushed out. I don't know. But the rest is really for the ROs. So the biggest part was for us. So in summary, what are your feelings, ladies? And if anyone has any questions, we've got like almost 20 people watching. If you have questions, please let us know. And when you are crafting your letter, but I'll put that on later. Ladies, do you have any other thoughts, feedback, input?
About the entire regs, or just
what are your, like, if you could give your top 3, you know, what would you say? What would be your top 3 comments that you would mention?
I think first and foremost, my biggest issue is the definition of private residence, and that you have to have a private residence to be able to grow. Because as Kimber mentioned, you know, our friend Nicole Ricci said it very well. It's our God-given right to be able to grow. So essentially, I mean, I always thought home grow as a way to make cannabis more accessible, more affordable than going to the dispensaries, even though dispensaries are great too, but like it's a more affordable way. But the way that the law is written right now, it seems like you have to have access to a backyard or a private space or a house with enough space to even grow 12 plants to be able to access like the true benefits of this regulation. So that is my biggest like angst with this. New York Small Pharma actually made a suggestion, and I'm trying to find it on my notes right now. But it said essentially, instead of saying that you need a private residence to grow, they're saying it could be a private residence or any external area that you've been given permission to grow. Because, you know, you can come up with an agreement with somebody in your neighborhood who has a garden and say, I really want to grow these plants here, and be able to do that. So, or it would be wonderful. Hopefully one day, I know we're talking about nurseries, we've mentioned co-op models. There could be, you know, a community space where people can come together and grow. That's a regenerative model for community building, but also access. So those are my biggest, that's my biggest like comment with this. Also, I guess the ability for designated caregivers to be able to charge their patients. I'm not fully formed on exactly like how I feel about it, but I just feel like there should be a way to be able to get compensated.
Like, I'm imagining the equivalent of like a home health aide. You know what I mean? They are so needed, and God bless them, but they are the least compensated in the food chain of the medical of any medical program. But like, you know, in that vein, yes, I don't think you should, you know, have this huge, you know, I'm charging $50 an hour, you know, to do something. But I do think you should be getting more than just reimbursed your, you know, I used my Metro card. You're going to give me that back? Thanks. Thank you. Bye. You know what I mean? Like, I just spent money on stuff. I think you should be, you know, compensated for that. So Kimber, what are your top 3 as far as the things that are important to you?
So the private garden conversation is very important to me, because I do think that right now, the way this is really written, it just is a very classist and elitist way to allow people to grow. If you don't own a residence, you don't have the opportunity to grow your own medicine. It just doesn't really make sense to me. I know that there are concerns about security and how do we monitor this. And I always go back to Stuyvesant Square Park in Manhattan, this beautiful gated park that you have to be a resident of the community to gain access to. And if we've been able to maintain and manage that wonderful institution for more than 40 years in New York City, I believe that we should be able to do the same thing with a private garden, even if it means that we have to have a security conversation about what gets added. We're having these conversations. I know there are pipe dreams about, our mayor saying, should you be able to grow on a rooftop? But the thought of that conversation is really to really open up more of that dialogue of acknowledging that the majority of our residents, especially people who are in a metropolitan area, are limited by the amount of space they have. So you shouldn't be limited to touching health and wellness because of your actual square footage. So that's a really important thing to me, because I view that that's limiting access.
So do you think that private residence doesn't mean, and I guess it's really the clarification, because in my mind, private residence means, if I didn't own my apartment, I could rent this apartment, and I have a door, and is private residence to the degree of, can you enter willingly? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't know, because when I was a journalist, we used to talk about that if you're in a hotel room and there's a police investigation and the police go through the garbage pail in that hotel room without a warrant, that is your place of residence. They needed a warrant. I mean, at least that's what they say on Law and Order. So they've been on TV for like 27 seasons. So
okay. Yeah, there's the clarification.
And I wonder about this, the whole conversation we were having about your landlord and a smoke-free building. And I feel like there's just not clear-cut language that makes me feel very secure that I know what a private residence is.
And that's really New York City, because you get out of New York City and it's a whole other planet, really. You know what I mean? But in the boroughs, especially, it's harder.
I live in a private house, but I grew up in the boroughs. Yeah. And I want to make sure that this is actually accessible and that we're not overlooking some very minor language that ends up creating something we just weren't expecting. The other thing that is super, super important to me is how many plants I'm able to grow and process for the patients I provide care to. Again, it's not just me and one other person. When I start this process, it's going to be for 4 patients, including me, and we all have different medical issues. So do I need 72 plants? I don't think so. But I'd like to know, since we're talking about all these limitations as to what that yield becomes, I'd like to know that I have a good starting point to make sure that I can actually do what I promise these people I'm going to do when we talk about providing care.
Exactly. And do you have any points that are super? Yes, it is wild, wild west. But we're hoping this is home cultivation. That whole dispensary or fake dispensary model is a whole other.
I think that the nice thing here is that, kind of how you pointed out, every person that really does cultivate keeps amazing records, because everything is an experiment. And what happens, when I put an indica sativa and a hybrid in the same tent? What happens when I lower the temperature by 10 degrees? What happens when I let that plant sit there for 10 more days? Then, we're people who are growing are really looking to quantify these things. So I do believe that there is going to be a reasonable tracking just out of our own desire and volition to be caregivers.
Yep. And there's some really fantastic items that you could purchase for, keeping your stuff tight. Somebody made a comment about it. If I can share, my biggest issues are the 5-pound thing. I am super curious about if 5 pounds means 5 pounds of yielded, cured, dried product, or if it means my entire plant, my whole, I'm going to put the whole pot, the whole entire bag. I do grow bags on the scale, and that's 5 pounds. I'm done. You know what I mean? So that clarification for me, also caregivers being able to grow at least the equivalent of the amount of patients that I have. I just knew in my mind that if I had 4 patients, I could grow 24 plants. Kimber, lovingly told me, hell no, and I'm like, what? So I think that we should be able to grow to the equivalent of the patients that we have. And then lastly, my biggest thing is testing. I am actually going to reply because the regulations for testing facilities are also out now. I don't know the date when they close. I don't, I have a
The
colleague.
15th, August 15th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not applying for a testing facility, I do want in these regulations that the testing facilities that they bring on are open to testing and maybe have special pricing for the patients in this program to have their products tested. So if that happened, I would be very, very happy. And we could talk about processing and community kitchens we've talked about. So, but let's not blow the OCM's head off because I don't know how much they can handle. Okay, so before we wrap
I wanted to ask just a few questions, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I feel like you might know this because how do people become designated caregivers, or how do we find designated caregivers? Is that there's no clarification about that in here?
Kimber can tell you. I'm a caregiver, so she can share.
Any person who is a New York State resident and has a New York ID card can become your caregiver if you are a patient in the medical program. It's actually a really easy setup when you get your recommendation from your doctor that says that you're certified to be a part of the program and this is the medication he or she recommends for you. The second page actually has the instructions as to how you upload that certification. And then once you create your user account, you, Tosi, could say, hey, I would like Kimber to be my caregiver. And you'll enter my name, my driver's license, and my birth date. And then it'll send me a little update through the New York Gov system saying that it's been requested that I be a caregiver. I accept it. You accept me. My favorite thing that the OCM has done in the caregiver program is that I used to get one card for all 4 of my patients. Every time I checked out, no one knew who I was ringing out for. Now my card actually says that I'm going in for Zacharezi, that I'm going in for, Michelle, whoever. So it's a really nice thing because it definitely keeps the medication secure and identifiable in the system. But that's it. If you have that driver's license number, you can become someone's caregiver. And if you get annoyed and you say, you know what? Every time I ask Tanya to go to the dispensary, it's 17 stories about why she can't get there and she's got to get her nails done. I can remove her and I can add you, Tosi. And in the matter of 15 minutes, you can go into those dispensaries and replace her.
Oh, wow. That is so.
Nikki has a question, Kimber.
Yeah.
About the cards.
The Office of Cannabis Management system is back online. We are now able to actually dispense medication in real time. So you can go in with your certification, with your card, and you can be serviced, which is a nice update. We do thank you for your patience over the past 75 days as we've waited for that program to update. Sometimes as we move forward, we leave a couple of things behind. Yeah. So if you're a dispensary worker, thank you.
Here's the info. If you want to, wherever you are, if you want to take a screenshot of that, that's where you're going to send your comments. So craft your letter, take our points, add your own, and so screenshot that so you have it, and send them off. You got to send them off by Monday.
Put home grow in the subject.
Yes.
If you're writing about the home grow regulations, if you're addressing something pertaining to testing and you want it to go into both areas of conversation, send the email twice and just change the subject.
They're due by comments, or I'll put it in the chat. Comments are due
July 25th.
July 20th, which
Monday.
is also a wonderful day. It's an amazing day.
We
Monday's
thank
my
you for
birthday.
being born. We love
Yes,
you.
happy
Thank you.
early
You're
birthday.
welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome, my people. Also,
Opposite.
we're gonna try something here. I hope it, it works. To do our giveaway, which is gonna be up next. Let's see if I can do it. I believe I
For that
can.
24 grams of concentrate that your wonderful caregiver will be able to make for you, hopefully every month.
Okay, so here's what everybody has to do. If you are still watching, you need to be entered into the drawing, you need to I'll put it in the chain. You're going to put New York State Home Grow. You're going to use that hashtag. And when you start adding that hashtag, just put it in the comments. We'll be able to pick a winner once everybody starts putting hashtag NYS Home Grow in the chat. But I don't want to pick myself. So people start making comments so that we can do our drawing. Right now, the only 3 entries are me, and I will take it. If you don't enter, I will take it. So please enter hashtag New York State Home Grow into the chat. Yes, okay, cool. Where people are starting to enter. Whatever no, so what's going to happen is if your legal name isn't there, anyone who potentially wins is going to have to email us, Tanya at the Cannadiva. I'll put that in there also, and we will know that you were the winner. Okay.
This is fun. Seeing all
So,
the comments.
and you can only listen. It weeds out multiples, so don't try it. No. Hashtag New York State Home Grow. We'll give you another like 3 or 4 minutes for that. We got a couple of entries now. So, ladies, I want to thank you because this was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I really am happy that we were able to pull this together. I hope everyone who has been watching it, please send your comments.
Oh, that's so nice.
This will live. Oh, perfect. This will live here on wherever you're watching it. So if you want to share it to somebody, if you want to go back and watch it later so that you can, I know who we are. We might not remember. So what did I want to talk about? Let's see how many entries we have. And if it's me, I'm going to just go to the next person, right?
Just one thing to point out, your letter doesn't have to be really complicated. It doesn't need to be longer than a couple of sentences. I think that sometimes it seems so overwhelming. Like you look at these regulations being 11 pages or 50 pages and you think that you need to respond in the same way. If there's something that's really important to you, private gardens, testing, I want to be able to test my home grow is enough for you to send back as a public comment. So don't be intimidated thinking that you need to write a novel. You just want it on the record. This is important to me because that was exactly what my comment was. I want to be able to test my home grow.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. And I do want to do a plug for nykannabisunited.com because there's great information on there with actual templates for submitting your comments via email or via mail. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be an expert. You can literally write a sentence or you can write 7 pages if you want to. If you do want to do a more detailed comment submission, my experience has been pointing out like the actual part of the regulation that you disagree with and then listing below the issue and then listing below that the suggestion, because I find that format is very
solution oriented.
Yeah, solution oriented, not just screaming out into a void, but like how can we actually change this for the better. So nykannabisunited.com has great information on there.
Yeah, and that's where our outline came from today. Thank you to them. Thank you to Cannaware Society. Thank you to our Women Grow team for putting this together. So let's do this giveaway. I hope it. Yes, Danny. Let's hope it works.
Let's do it.
I'm doing it now. Can you see it? You can't see it though. Hold on. The winner is me, so I have to do it again.
Oh man.
Stop it.
All right, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Are you going to get a new home? Are you
Your
excited?
fingers while we wait.
You're not going to Tanya.
It keeps picking me.
Really?
All right, I'm gonna get another
You
one.
need to concentrate on another name. Concentrate.
The winner. I wish. Can I? I can't share the screen, or can I? Hold on. Let me see if I can. Because the winner is actually. Hold on. Can I share the screen? It would have been great if I could, but I don't know if I can. Hold on. Let me figure out.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I have bated breath.
Let's see if it works. Hold on. Give me a second. Because then I just want to show her face so you could see.
Oh, we're going to see somebody's face? That's so exciting.
Yes. You can see her face because I did the winner. And let's see if I can share the screen. And is it going to share me the right window?
Thank you all so much for Oh!
Yay! It kept picking me. So,
My aura lover. We'll still use our auras together, Sam.
so Sam, congratulations. You're the winner of the and some cool swagalicious from the Cannadiva. We're gonna bring up Danny to wrap us up.
Go, Sam.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This was fantastic. Send your comments again by the 25th so they can get in there and the OCM knows what we want. And then watch the replay. If you're here and you want to watch it again, watch it again. Everyone, say goodnight.
Good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
See you later. Take care.